Everyone says your 20s are for building, your 30s are for scaling, and your 40s? Your 40s are for managing what you built when you were younger. That's garbage. I was 42 when I came back to Apple. The company was 90 days from bankruptcy. Most people thought it was over. And you know what they said about me? He's too old. He's out of touch. The world has moved on. Tech belongs to the young guys now. I proved them wrong. And if you're over 40 and thinking about starting something, I'm going to tell you why you can prove them wrong too. Not in spite of your age, because of it. Let me start by being honest about something nobody wants to talk about. There are real challenges to building a company after 40. And if I stand here and pretend they don't exist, I'm lying to you. You have less energy. That's just biology. When I was 25, I could work 18-hour days, sleep 4 hours, wake up and do it again. For months, I lived on adrenaline and pizza and the belief that I was invincible. At 45, I couldn't do that anymore. My body wouldn't let me. I needed sleep. I needed to take care of myself. And yeah, that was frustrating at first. I felt like I was losing my edge. But here's what I learned. That limitation forced me to be smarter about how I spent my time. I couldn't be in every meeting, so I had to choose which meetings actually mattered. I couldn't review every detail, so I had to build a team I could trust. I couldn't work all night, so I had to make decisions faster and better during the day. The energy constraint made me more effective, not less, because I didn't have the luxury of wasting time anymore. Then there's family. When you're 25, you can sleep in your office. You can go months eating ramen. You can bet everything on a crazy idea because you're only risking yourself. At 45, you probably have people depending on you. Kids, a mortgage, responsibilities that don't go away just because you want to start a company. And that changes your risk tolerance. It has to. I'm not going to tell you to ignore that. I'm going to tell you to work with it. Plan smarter. Validate your idea before you quit your job. Build a financial cushion. Start it as a side project if you need to. There's no shame in being strategic about risk when you have people counting on you. And then there's the cult of youth, especially in technology. This idea that all the best ideas come from 22-year-olds who just dropped out of college. That innovation belongs to the young. That if you're over 40, you're too old to understand what's next. I've watched this attitude take hold over the years, and it's frustrating because it's wrong, but more than that, it's limiting. It robs the world of the contributions that experienced people could make, and it makes people over 40 doubt themselves unnecessarily. So let me be very clear. The cult of youth is nonsense. It's a story that sounds good, but doesn't match reality, and I'm going to spend the rest of this talk telling you why. Because here's what they don't tell you about getting older. Yes, you lose some things. Energy, fearlessness, the ability to survive on 4 hours of sleep. But you gain so much more. You gain pattern recognition. And this might be the single most valuable thing about experience. When you're young, every situation feels new. Every problem feels unique. You're constantly trying to figure out what to do because you've never seen anything like this before. After 20 years in business, you've seen the patterns. You've watched markets cycle. You've seen technologies rise and fall. You've watched companies make the same mistakes over and over. And because you've seen it before, you know what's coming next. When everyone was talking about the internet bubble in the late 90s, I'd seen bubbles before. I knew how they worked, how they inflated, how they popped. And that pattern recognition helped me navigate it better than people who were experiencing it for the first time. When the iPhone disrupted the mobile industry, I wasn't surprised by how the incumbents reacted, because I'd seen disruption before. I knew they'd deny it first, then dismiss it, then panic, then try to copy it badly. I'd watched it happen with personal computers. The pattern was the same. You can't learn pattern recognition from a book. You can't get it from a mentor. You can only get it from living through enough cycles that you start to see how things repeat. And that takes time. That takes age. Here's another thing you gain: emotional intelligence. When I was young, I thought being smart was enough. I thought if you had the best ideas and the most talent, people would follow you. And I treated people accordingly. I was brilliant, and I was a jerk. Getting fired taught me something. It taught me that brilliance without humanity doesn't work, that you can't just tell people what to do and expect them to care. That leadership is about bringing out the best in others, not proving you're the smartest person in the room. In my 40s, I learned to listen, really listen, not just wait for my turn to talk. I learned to ask questions instead of giving orders. I learned that the best ideas often come from someone else, and my job is to recognize them and nurture them. At Pixar, I learned this even more deeply, because I wasn't the creative genius there. Ed Catmull and John Lasseter were the geniuses. My job was to support them, to clear obstacles, to give them what they needed to do their best work. That's emotional intelligence. And it's something you develop over time, through relationships, through mistakes, through learning that treating people well isn't just morally right, it's practically effective. You also gain patience, real patience, not the fake patience where you're gritting your teeth waiting for something to happen, the deep patience that comes from knowing that good things take time. When we were building the iPhone, we didn't rush it. We spent years getting it right. We threw away prototypes that were almost good enough because almost wasn't good enough. We delayed the launch when we had to because the software wasn't ready. Could I have done that at 25? No. I would have wanted to ship it fast, to beat everyone else to market, to prove we could move quickly. But at 50, I knew that shipping something great later is better than shipping something mediocre now. That the market remembers quality forever, but forgets who was first within a year. That patience is a competitive advantage when everyone else is rushing. And then there's focus. This might be the most important thing you gain after 40, the ability to say no. When you're young, you want to do everything. Every opportunity seems important. Every partnership seems valuable. Every feature seems necessary. And you spread yourself so thin trying to do it all that you do nothing particularly well. After 40, you've learned that focus is power, that saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones is how you win, that constraints aren't limitations, they're clarity. When I came back to Apple, we had 15 product lines, 15, and they were all mediocre. So we killed 11 of them. We focused on 4 products, 4. Everyone thought I was insane. You can't compete with just 4 products. But focus is exactly how we competed. Every engineer, every designer, every dollar, every minute of attention went into making those 4 products insanely great. And that focus made all the difference. I couldn't have done that at 25. I would have been too afraid of missing opportunities, too worried about leaving money on the table, too concerned about what competitors were doing. At 45, I knew that focus beats breadth every single time. And I had the confidence to kill everything that didn't matter so we could make what did matter absolutely perfect. Let me talk about taste for a minute. Because taste is something you develop over time, and it's one of your biggest advantages after 40. Taste is knowing what's good, really good, not just acceptable or fine or good enough, great. Taste is being able to look at 2 things that both work and knowing which one is better and why. You can't teach taste. You develop it by caring deeply about quality for years, by studying the best examples, by building things and seeing what works and what doesn't, by developing such a refined sense of what matters that you can feel it in your gut. The iPhone succeeded because we had taste. We knew that touching the screen directly would feel better than using a stylus, even though everyone else was using styluses. We knew that a smooth glass surface would feel better than plastic, even though plastic was cheaper. We knew that making it thin mattered more than making it have a removable battery. Those weren't business decisions, they were taste decisions. And they came from decades of thinking about what makes products feel right. Now let me talk about your unfair advantages, because after 40, you have resources that young entrepreneurs don't, and you should use them. First, you have a network, 20 years of professional relationships, people who know you, who trust you, who will take your call. That network is gold. It opens doors. It gets you meetings. It helps you recruit talent. It gives you access to capital. Don't be shy about using it. That's not cheating. That's leverage. You earn those relationships over decades of showing up and delivering value. Now use them to build something great. Second, you have credibility. When you've been in an industry for 20 years, people assume you know what you're doing. They give you the benefit of the doubt. They're more willing to take a chance on your vision because they trust your judgment. That credibility is a massive advantage. It means investors listen to you, customers trust you, employees want to work for you, all because you've proven yourself over time. Third, you probably have resources, savings, equity, access to capital. You're not starting from zero the way a 25-year-old is, and that gives you options. You can take smarter risks. You can build something more substantial. You can weather the inevitable rough patches. But the biggest advantage is clarity. After 40, you know why you're building, and it's not to prove yourself anymore. When I was 25, I was building Apple partly to show the world I was special, that I was smart enough and bold enough to change things. My ego was wrapped up in it. When I came back at 42, I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. I'd already succeeded. I'd already failed. I'd already been written off and come back. There was nothing left to prove. I came back because I saw what Apple could be, because I believed in the power of great design and great technology to improve people's lives, because I wanted to build products that mattered, not products that made me feel important. That shift in motivation changes everything. When you're not building for your ego, you make better decisions. You focus on what's right instead of what makes you look good. You hire people who are better than you instead of people who make you feel smart. You build for the long term instead of the quick win. And that clarity, that purity of purpose, you can really only have that after you've already proven yourself and don't need external validation anymore. Now let me talk about how you should build differently after 40. Because you can't compete with 25-year-olds on their terms. You shouldn't try. You should compete on your terms. Don't compete on speed, compete on quality. Young entrepreneurs move fast. They ship quickly. They iterate constantly. And sometimes that works. But sometimes they ship things that aren't ready because they're so focused on speed. You can build things that take longer but are better. You can take the time to get it right, to perfect the details, to create something that lasts. That's your competitive advantage. Don't compete on working hours. Compete on judgment. You can't work 80-hour weeks anymore. Fine, work smarter instead. Make better decisions in less time. Focus on the few things that matter instead of trying to do everything. I couldn't work all night anymore, so I made sure every hour I did work counted. I killed unnecessary meetings. I delegated more. I made decisions faster. And the company ran better because I was more focused, not less. Build for 10 years, not 2 years. Young entrepreneurs often build for a quick exit. They want to get big fast and sell. You can build for the long term. Build something that compounds. Build something that gets better every year instead of peaking early. That long-term thinking is a huge advantage. It lets you make investments that don't pay off immediately but create massive value over time. It lets you build a culture and a brand instead of just shipping features. And hire people who are better than you. This is easier when you're older because you're more secure. You don't feel threatened by brilliant people. You know that the company is bigger than your ego. When I was young, I hired smart people, but I wanted to be the smartest person in the room. After 40, I actively looked for people who were better than me at things. Jony Ive was a better designer. Tim Cook was better at operations. I wasn't competing with them. I was collaborating with them. That's maturity. And it's a superpower. Because when you can hire people who are better than you and actually empower them, you build something much bigger than you could build alone. Let me address the fear, because I know it's there. This voice in your head asking, am I too late? Did I miss my window? Is the world passing me by? I felt that fear. When I got fired at 30, that voice was deafening. When Next was struggling, when people were saying I'd lost it, that voice told me maybe they were right. Maybe I was a has-been. Maybe my best days were behind me. Here's what I learned about that voice. It's lying. It's taking your insecurity and turning it into a story, but it's not a true story. You're not too late. You're right on time. Your experience, your wisdom, your perspective, these are exactly what you need to build, what you're meant to build. Could you have built it 10 years ago? Maybe, but it wouldn't have been as good because you weren't ready yet. You hadn't learned what you needed to learn. You hadn't developed the taste and judgment and patience you have now. The thing you're going to build, it requires everything you've learned, every success, every failure, every hard lesson. You needed those 20 years to be ready for this. So stop thinking you're late. You're not late. You're experienced. And experience is exactly what the world needs. Here's something else about that fear. You're afraid of failing. Of course you are. You've seen enough to know how hard this is. You know the odds. You know how many companies fail. But you also know something young entrepreneurs don't know. You know that you can survive failure because you probably already have. You've made mistakes. You've had setbacks. You've recovered. You know that failure isn't death. It's just information. That knowledge makes you braver, not more cautious, because you're not afraid of failure anymore. You're just realistic about it. You know it might happen. And you know you'll be okay either way. When I came back to Apple, I knew we might fail. The odds weren't good. But I also knew that if we failed, I'd survive. I'd already been fired once. I'd already rebuilt my career. I could do it again if I had to. That gave me the courage to take the risks we needed to take, to kill profitable product lines because they weren't great, to bet everything on products that didn't exist yet, to make bold moves that look crazy to everyone else. Your experience with failure is an advantage. It makes you more willing to take smart risks because you know failure isn't fatal. Let me tell you about the moment I almost said no to coming back to Apple. The board asked me to return, and I thought about all the reasons to say no. I was doing well at Pixar. Toy Story had succeeded. We were finally profitable. I didn't need Apple anymore. Apple was a mess. 90 days from bankruptcy. Terrible products. No focus. It would take years to fix, if it could be fixed at all. And if I failed, if I came back and couldn't save it, that would be my legacy. Steve Jobs, the guy who killed Apple. I almost said no. Almost. But then I realized something. This is what I'd been preparing for. All those years at NXT, learning how to build an operating system. All those years at Pixar, learning patience and storytelling. All those failures and hard lessons, they prepared me for this exact moment. I wasn't too old to save Apple. I was finally old enough. I finally had everything I needed. The technical knowledge, the design sensibility, the business experience, the emotional maturity, the patience and focus and taste. 25-year-old Steve couldn't have done it. He would have tried to do too much, too fast. He would have let his ego get in the way. He would have made it about himself instead of about the products. But 42-year-old Steve, I could do it. Because I'd learned everything I needed to learn the hard way through 2 decades of success and failure. That's what your experience gives you, not just knowledge, readiness. You're ready for the thing you're about to build in a way you couldn't have been ready before. So here's what I want you to understand. Your best work isn't behind you, it's ahead of you. The thing you're about to build, it's going to be better than anything you've done before. Because you're better now, more experienced, more skilled, more wise. Age isn't something to overcome, it's something to leverage. It's data, it's wisdom, it's competitive advantage. The world doesn't need another 25-year-old building a fast, mediocre company. The world needs what you can build, something deep, something meaningful. Something that only someone with your specific combination of experience and insight and skill can create. So stop waiting, stop doubting, stop thinking you're too old or too late or that your moment passed. Your moment is right now. This is what you've been preparing for. All those years of work, all those lessons learned, all that experience, it was preparing you for this. Build the thing that scares you, the thing that you're uniquely qualified to build, the thing that will matter 10 years from now, not just tomorrow. Build it with patience and focus and taste. Build it with all the wisdom you've earned. Build it because you know why it needs to exist, not because you need to prove something. And when people say you're too old, show them what old actually means. It means experienced, skilled, wise, ready. I built the iPhone when I was 52, the iPad when I was 55. My best work came after 50, after I'd learned everything I needed to learn, after I'd become who I needed to be to build it. You can do the same. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your superpower. Use it. The world is waiting for what only you can build. Stop making them wait. Start building. Your best work is ahead of you, not behind you, ahead, right now, this moment, when you finally have everything you need to build something that matters. So go build it.